Hello, this is Vaibhav Divakar Surya Dinesh Ramya giving a demo of a project Quiz app aka the Quizter. The aim of this is to develop a software application that helps faculty in setting up and conduct a virtual quiz and enable students to take that. Conducting quizzes virtually has always been a challenge, and this is due to various factors like server not being able to handle concurrent users, complex user interface, complexity in setting up a quiz, etc. Quizter is designed in such a way that it eliminates these issues and takes care of almost everything which no other app could do. Quizter helps the faculties conduct the quizzes in a hassle-free way possible, and it's easy to understand you enables the students to take the test easily. There have been certain tools and technologies that have been used. For instance, Flutter has been used for front-end, Django and GraphQL has been used for back-end, GitHub for continuous integration. Then there is Jira for product as a product backing tool. We have used InVision for diagrammatic representations, and we have used Figma for designing a project, and we have used Jenkins, AWS and GCP for our cloud deployment. The advantages and benefits that our Quizter offers is that it has a both web and desktop client for ease of access. And Quizter uses pagination for student end, which has a longer initial loading time, but subsequent loading time is very fast. Faculty can select any type of question so that he or she does not have a limitation setting up the question paper. Because of using Flutter, most of the content is dynamic in nature. Both students and faculty can be assured of the fact that the timer is accurate from both the server and the local machine. And as we have used something called Django, it enables us to smartly use the database with ample modifications from Django, which gives database privileges and user privileges in a safe and secure manner. And there's also a session pop-out time which helps us to secure a login of a student, and it does not really help in erasing the data if he or she has a problem with the internet connectivity.
So we start running the app by using the command flutter run -d windows, which runs the app as a Flutter desktop client. So this desktop client compiles as a native C library based desktop app, which is as similar as any other app here. So this directly connects to the backend. Now since this is a debug version, we'll be actually entering the address. In other cases, the address the username and password will be auto loaded from our local cache or local data, and only after signing out will they be able to add in a new data. So here we can see the user details, the change password and the sign out buttons, and apart from that you can also see the change password dialog. So these are the notifications. It's a list of notifications that have been assigned for you, and here you can cross out a particular notification to completely remove it from your notification history. So this is a bar of today's quizzes which was just reloaded. Apart from this is the courses assigned to this particular faculty. In this courses tab, you will find the list of all students, and when you press the drop down menu, you can see the quizzes assigned to that particular individual, the number of submissions made, the marks, and the total marks. So as you can see, there are various different courses assigned to the faculty, and this is just a demonstration of that. So these are the quizzes that the particular faculty has made. You'll be able to edit the particular quiz for further publication options. So apart from that, you can also add a new quiz. So let's call it sample quiz, and this so he hasn't added a access code. So if you haven't added an access code, it will generate a unique 8-digit code or 8-letter code, and it will push it back to the database. This code is very important because you will also have to enter it or keep in mind that this is the code. But you can retrieve the code back during the publishing stages. So it isn't important that the faculty has to remember it. It is meant to improve the security of the app, so that no other student might enter the quiz without proper timing or without proper authorization. Like let's say the faculty assigns a quiz between 5:30 to 7, and he requires a student to take at a particular moment at this range, let's say 15 minutes between this range. So that particular password will enable the faculty to curb the access of the student until a particular aspect. So now you can see a demo question has been being set. It's a single correct answer question. You can add the points. You can set the correct option. You can flag it. Setting the correct option is just clicking on the tick box, and you can also save it. So now it says you haven't assigned marks to it. So this is some of the error cases we have handled. So you're assigning a new mark, you're assigning some positive marks to it, and that's it. So when you press the add button, it adds a new question in the pool, but then it does not save it in the database. Only after you hit save will the question be actually saved. So here let's give a multiple choice, a multiple correct answer, which is multiple choices that might be correct of the following. So we'll keep the question as choose the software engineering terms within these following options. So we can add as many options as you require, but one requirement in the multiple correct answer is that at least 2 options should be chosen. So that's what makes sense for multiple correct answer. If it was single correct answer, it makes sense that only one option can be selected. So the first 2 are correct, and the next 2 are will be wrong. So compiler and networks are wrong, and Scrum Master and Sprint is the correct answer for these. So the context of the question does not matter, but the fact that 2 options are being selected, and then marks are being assigned, some negative marks or positive marks. So let's increase the positive marks to 4 and add a negative marking of 1. So this will be in the backend when the student is answering these questions, it will be allotted partially because there are more than one correct answer for multiple correct answer. So let's give a different version of question here. Let's import a question from our past database. So this is an innovation we made. It's a global copy. So all the questions that the faculty has made so far will come in that particular list. That is not only this course, that is not only confined to this course, but all courses. This was a particular decision we made because we realized that there might be certain circumstances where the teacher takes similar courses, but may have to there might be a need where he has to copy the question from the other. Let's say there is a course where in one course he's teaching Flutter Basic, and one course he's teaching the Flutter Advanced Concepts. But then he can always bring in or he can always inherit the future questions. So this is a fill in the what is the value of it's a numerical question, so he's entering 3.14, and you can save that particular option. So apart from this, we can proceed with saving the draft. Now saving the draft it'll ask your authorization, and only after this dialog will you go to the saving the quiz. So you can see the access code that is repeated here, the total marks which is calculated from the marks you've allotted so far, which is 242. So you have 8 here. You can set the start time and the end time here. So you get a calendar widget where you pick the particular date, and you have a time where you pick the particular time by which you can allot the start and end time. In case you don't enter a published time, the feedback will not be published to the students, and if required, the marks will also not be published. So that is an advance is dependent on the admin. But as of now, we have adopted business rules where it means that if published time is not there, the feedback will not be published. So assign to is again a global variant. So what assign to does is it will give you the list of all the people in that particular class. So it gives you the students of 3A and 3D. Now as soon as 3A was entered, the other students were removed, who belong to 3A. So similarly, let's say if you had chosen 3D, all the students in 3D would have. So there's linear access, shuffle, and email notification. Email notification is for notifying the students that there is a quiz for them. So the quiz has been published, and it has been entered in the quizzes list. So you can go edit it probably, and you will see that all the questions are still there. There are 4 questions as assigned earlier, and now we'll continue with just showing the navigation aspects of it. So you can click on any of these buttons and you can save the draft again. Now this saving the draft is probably because you need to change the published details. The thing is, we have made it so that every time you put a publish option, you will have to re-enter the publish options. This is to make sure that every stage you make the right decisions and right choices. Basically, the assigned to has to be assigned every time. So now that he has published this particular quiz with a duration of 10 minutes, number of submissions allowed as 2. So apart from this, we'll see the results. So the results is a bit curious. So it has the quiz name and the course assigned to it. So based on this quiz name and course combination, you'll be able to see a particular. Now let's say the quiz does not have any validations, valid submissions, it will not show any results so far. There's a basic graph with marks scored to number of responses, and then a list of all the students assigned to the course and their marks. So you have average, median, range, and total marks. So since there's only one submission, one proper submission, it says 10 marks and there's this one number of response. So this is the particular feedback of the particular student. So these are the exact options that the particular student has entered, and it says whether it is right or wrong. So based on that, the teacher can manually calculate the marks, but the marks calculation is completely automated. It is blocked, it is restricted, and the teacher will not be able to change it once it has been done. Once the system calculates the mark. Now this is made in such a way that because we have considered this as to be a closed quiz app rather than a complete system like AMS. So you can see more students with more this thing. This has 2 students, so it says a 10 mark and a 15 mark this thing. And this is a normal help box which just says contact us with a random number, and for the purpose is to show the project, and then we can also sign out. So now that we have seen the faculty account, the next step would be to see the student account and see if the quizzes assigned to him are actually available. The quiz is just created, that is the sample quiz is available to this particular user. So he's entering as usual the username and password, and once he signs on, he'll get into a similar home page as in the faculty. So you'll be able to see his roll number, his detail, his today's quizzes, and next step would be to see he'll have a similar change password layout, and he'll also have a sign out page. So his notifications are a bit more detailed because this contains the details like a quiz has been assigned to you with the start time, end time, and so on. So apart from the email, even if an email notification is not there, these notifications are always there. So you can present a particular course, see the number of submissions the particular user has made in the particular quiz that is in the course, his marks, his total marks, and what the status of his submission is. So the sample quiz is a new quiz that has been assigned here with 2 available submissions. There is no marks, there is no total marks because the user hasn't hasn't taken up the quiz yet. So now let's just refresh. This is a refresh button which again takes the query from the backend and displays the results again. So this now let's enter the sample quiz. So it gives a detailed instruction as to what is to be done and what is not to be done with proper reading here or in the faculty's quiz page would give you all the instructions or most of the instructions that you need. So this is a side panel which has the timer, it has the navigation possible, and you can if the sidebar takes up most of the space and you need more real estate, you can always disable the particular option, or you can, since this quiz is a linear axis, he is not able to click any of those buttons. So this green will become yellow, red, and so on based on the time. So this will give you an idea as to what how much time is left even without the side panel. So if in case you want to be able to jump to a particular question, you will be able to use the side panel to jump to a particular question. But this particular quiz is a linear axis, so he will not be able to jump to a particular instance. So it says a multiple choice answer where the user or where the student understands that it is multiple choices. Apart from this, as given in the instructions, very clearly stated that if you have a number, it is a single correct answer. If you don't have any indication of one dot or any indication of whether there is a number or a letter, then it is a multiple choice answer. So this is fill in the blanks. It is very evident from a text box, very a small text box here. The short answers will have a larger text box. So he enters product and he goes to the next question. Since it is linear axis, you don't have the previous button also, and you only have the next button, and this is the last question, so he doesn't have a next button here. The next button is automatically disabled. So once you come to this stage, you can either save or submit. In either cases, the student's answers are always recorded, unlike the faculty's answers. This is to there are different approaches to this, but the students' answers are always recorded. So and then you can submit the quiz. There's another thing that the time is always global. So your local time is synced to the server's time to make sure that you are attempting a quiz in a fair and square manner. So the next thing you can see are the results. So the results will contain all the results of the particular user for this particular course or the particular quiz. So you can, as you can see, he has feedbacks, and he can click on any of these feedbacks to see what answers he answered and whether his answer is correct or wrong. So yes, the answer is yes, answer is wrong, so is correct. So he gets 7 marks of this, and that is the number of marks he has received. So based on whether no or yes, he'll be able to understand whether there's a feedback, and on clicking any of the ones with the yes option, he'll be able to go to the feedback page. So once he clicks on one of these yes options, like let's say since that's submitted quiz, so he gets to see what the option is. It's for 5 marks, and you can see that he has received 10 marks. Now this might be a reason because the faculty has decided to change a question or change a quiz, but anyway they decided to give total marks for that. So now you can sign out, and the next thing being entered is also the user's account. Yeah, so this is a failed login attempt, this thing. So let's say you have more than 3 failed login, you get into this automated timer where you'll have to wait for you to log in again. Apart from that, you can also select one of these forgot password options, either go to the same place, so you get an account recovery option. During that time, it sends an email to you. So as you can see, you have a new email from Quista team, and you have the security code, and it just says normal communication is established, and it says you can enter the security code into your particular account. So you can enter your security code, a new password, and confirm the new password. Only if the 2 passwords match and the access code match, you'll be able to save it. And the password was a super secret. I mean, it was super secret. So here I'll just enter super secret, and you can see that the password is matching and validated. So you can sign into a particular account, and that's it. So this concludes a brief demo version of us. We will be continue with the admin.
So now let's look into the Django part. So now we'll be looking at the part where the admin actually controls everything. So we'll be just looking at the admin, like how the quizzes are added and how can we add the options to that particular quiz, how time is being set and everything. So let's just dig into it. And here I just put my password and I just put sign in. Now as it is admin, so we have thought of keeping a dual factor kind of thing. So we have just added that part, and we have to just log in twice. And voila, now we are inside the admin. And here as you can see that there are users for the, from the uh, for our app, where the admin email address is this, and there is the faculty, and we have right now kept the faculties as cb.en.fac 20,001 and cb.en.fac 20,002, and we have various students starting from 307 to 316. So this is how we can add or take users from here. So these are the users that have been already added. I can click add, and I can simply add another user to it, and that won't be any problem. So let's go into the classes. Classes right now are 3A and 3D. I can similarly add another class and make it look 3D, and it'll get stored in the database without any added work. It's so simple and it's very easy just with one click. So let's go to the courses. Courses right now 15 CSE 001, 15 CSE 313. If I click on the courses, we just have the faculty handling that particular course. And here, as you can see, the faculty assigned is fac to 20,000 for both the classes. And let's see, makes it's an object it's related to the for example, there's a faculty and he wants to create a test, and he just creates this particular test called sprint 2 test, and he just could save on it and it'll get saved in the next part. So this is how you can actually save and create a test here, create a kind of quiz, and it's basically it tells who has assigned to it. Coming to notification part of it, you get notification for everything about from if you go into starting, let's say we have added a student called 308, and we'll get the notification of you have been added as a student. That means the 308 in the front end, the student will get an update saying uh, 308 you have been added as a student. Similarly, a faculty, similarly when a quiz is set, you get something like uh, a quiz has been set up at this time, this is the start time and this is the end time. So similarly, all things are here done by admin with with a very efficiency. And you can also see that the notifications are point on, and they are up to the point and minimalistic. Now coming to the options part, these are the options that we have set for the quiz. So let's first see quizzes. So these are the various quizzes set by the faculty. As we have earlier seen in the makes, there's a sprint 2 test, and this sprint 2 test was actually given by fact 20001. And if we go into the test, we know this is the access code of the test. This quiz name is quiz 2, and here the date has been 6th June. And there's a start time and there's an end time for this. As this was a trial quiz, we have just given a very small duration of time there. The course is 15CC313, and there have been a step-by-step instruction to solve your problems. Then this is a linear access based quiz, so it's only single correct action. As you can see, each mark for question, each mark for a question is only 2 marks, and there's no negative markings. And you can actually add a file to the image, and you can do lots of stuff. So this is how one of the quizzes. And if you want to add a new quiz, you can just click on add, and you can create a new quiz, and this new quiz would be definitely be reflected on your front end. So let's see the selected options. So these are the options that have selected by the student. So that's why they have been around 273, because these are all the test cases we have used. So it's kind of you can see that all these are all the options selected by this particular student. Here cb.en.user314 has selected, there's a question called who will win this IPL 2021. So this answer he has put CSK, and this user is this. So here we'll get what student has selected what option, and it will again get like it's already getting stored in the database, so there is no worries there. So takes is similarly that, so it takes the object of that object and it'll just see. So takes is basically it's the quiz is actually set, so it will take that object and it will put it in the database. That's all, nothing more, so simple. So as you can see, this was the admin part, where admin can actually see the classes, courses, notifications, quizzes, how we can put. And then this access is actually so the quizzes part, especially the selected options quizzes, quizzes part and all, is actually given to the faculty also. So a faculty adds quizzes, faculty will review what the child has put, and admin can actually do more than what faculty does. So basically admin can actually admin gets the notifications what where and which notification have been sent to which particular student. Then there is courses, each an enrollment, each student has enrolled in which particular course. Or you can also say that there is this faculty is teaching a so and so class, so admin knows which faculty is teaching what class, and which student is enrolled in which course. So admin basically knows right from enrolling uh, to the uh, to the quiz he has taken. So everything is stored in database, and it's storing in a very clear and precise way, and there are no hassles. So this was all about the admin part. Now let's move on to the next section. So I'll just log out right now, and that's it. We have been logged out of the server, and we also have logged out of the session. Let's now go look at our GitHub where we have already created our app in a repository. So let's log into that. So I'm just now going into the GitHub. So this is the app which we have created. So we'll just go to the Quister app. This is the Quister app. So there's something called backend, frontend, license, and README. The README is, so this is the project description of our app. Uh, a project on making a web app or desktop client for a university or institution to connect users internally. The project is made with Flutter, Django, and GraphQL. So this is what we have done. So this is the backend part. In the backend part, as you can see, there's scripts, there's packages of Python, and in the question part of the backend, there is this quiz app. There is the admin.py. This is the backend version of the whole quiz, where you have models, you have schema, you have views and everything. And also you can see in the question, it's called test.sh, which is actually uh, our test cases, and there is schema for our GraphQL. There is something called requirements.txt. There is something called SQLite3, which is the database, and there is match.py, which is the run server command for the whole backend. Now let's go into the front end. In the front end, we have as the front end is done using the Flutter. There will be various images inside this, and this is the web build of the Flutter. But the main part comes in library. So where you can see the whole integral part of app is basically these folders where you have your screens, you have views, you have widgets, you have GraphQL. So this is where our whole project has been as created as a repository under our Scrum Masters site, and our Scrum Master is Divakar. So it has been put in his Git, and we have access to it, and we edit it as team members. So this is Quister, and this is an app, and this has been properly put in a repository in the GitHub. So now let's move on to the next section. So let's dig into Jenkins, and let's just log into Jenkins. So Jenkins is basically an automation server which enables us to build, test, and deploy our software in it. So as you can see, there are two files. One is a hello world, one is GitHub. Hello world was just to get the air of the Jenkins, and now we are here. We go inside our GitHub. So in our Jenkins, we have done a lot of build stuff. So basically, what we have done was we wanted to test our software, whether it was working for certain test cases or not, and we have done that. So as you can see, there have been a lot of builds here. If I just click on this particular build, I can see that, and I just go to the console output. I can just see that uh, my for my test cases, it ran 25 tests in 0.296 seconds, and it was a success. So it has just told me that my test cases were working without any errors. So it just gave me output. So to understand it in a deeper way, let's look at our dashboard and get to know what exactly we're trying to do. So initially, this is our home home interface of the Jenkins. And once we've gone inside the GitHub, there is this lot of test cases that have been built. So the test cases that have been built were as you can see, we have automated it. So the advantage of Jenkins is we can automate our test cases, and we can set a particular time, and it will automatically build it without we intervening in between. So as you can see, there is a half an hour difference between the test cases. That means we automated it to 30 minutes, and every time it will run test cases, and if there's an error, it will show an error. But as you can see, there's a green tick mark which shows that all tests have been passed, and these already gets integrated with our Git app. So as it gets integrated with the Git app, whatever changes developers have done in the development part of our app, they get reflected here, and after they get reflected, a new build is made, and a new build test cases are run again. As you can see, let's say our developers have done something at 415, and there was a new build created at 417. That means it is a completely new set of cases that will be coming up, new type of changes that will be reflecting in. So the GitHub has been as GitHub has been integrated, we can see that build here. As you can see, there was a tick mark. That means the new build has already passed the new test cases. That means there is no problem with the app, and app is ready for deployment. And you can see that as it has been automated, we have been checking it for last 30 minutes. So basically it checks twice in an hour, that is 24 times, that is roughly twice in 1 hour. So that means 48 times in 24 hours. So if ever there's an error, we try to resolve it, but as there are no errors, right now we can deploy our app without any problem. So this is about Jenkins. And if you want, if let's get a little deep in it. What we've done is we have actually configured a lot of stuff inside the Jenkins. There's something called Manage Jenkins, and in Manage Jenkins there's something called configure system. There's global tool configuration. There's plugins. So we have used a plugin called Shining Panda and Python. We have used Python, and as this is directly connected to our backend, which is GCP. So as we have done this build in Python, so we have installed something called Python build in Shining Pandas, which is already installed in our Jenkins. It's called Shining Pandas, which is already there. I think I'll just type it out. The Shining Pandas, as you can see, and there is a Python builder. So that's a Python builder which has helped us to deploy it with which has helped us to build our things in an efficient way and a very easy way. So this plugin was kind of very useful in the deployment part of our app onto the Jenkins. And as the builds are all successful, it has really this app has really helped us to go for deployment without any without any we worrying about build. So this was all about Jenkins. Now let's move on to the next segment. I'll just log out and I'll just log out.
So these are our Amazon EC2 service. So what we'll do here is we'll basically make an EC2 instance, and then do the basic operations like transferring the files using SMTP client like WinSCP or AWS WinSCP or FileZilla to make the transactions from the local computer to the EC2 instance. Once that's done, it is a matter of connecting to the Git bash, which we will connect via the address provided. So once we connect to the Git bash using the local IPv4 address or local address with a particular username combination and the private key, we'll be able to connect to either to the Git bash, connect to the EC2 either through Git bash or through WinSCP or any file transfer program. So what is Git bash? Git bash helps us to directly enter commands which will directly be reflected in the terminal of our EC2 instance. So this command can be program specific, and these commands can be used to resolve resolve the dependencies, etc. Now, so since we have used the Jenkins pipeline, we can directly transfer the files from the Jenkins pipeline to here, and then be able to just with a single line of command be able to run the server. Now the reason why we will have to run the server manually is because it requires sudo access. Sudo access cannot be provided to something like Jenkins pipeline because it's an external source. So once you run the command with the sudo access, you will be able to run the particular server. So for the backend is deployed in the custom properties with custom properties using the default command python manage.py run server. The reason why we stick to manage.py run server rather than something like Unicorn is because we realize that it is actually better and slightly faster to run it in that profile with the debug profiles as false. So so now that the backend is working properly, the next course of action would be to run the front end. The front end has a similar thing, we have deployed it using in a web directory and serving it to a Node.js HTTP server. So apart from this, the last step would be to configure the name servers. The reason why we do this is so that when our instance is closed and open up again, the IP addresses change. So it will be just a matter of copying these new IP addresses onto these name servers, edit these name servers, and you will be done. This will help us tremendously, because every time we needn't go to the instance, go and configure the IP addresses and give the access in the backend. It will be just a matter of entering few lesser lines of command, and also at the same time we are getting a proper URL with a proper name, so that any of our other teammates can use it, or any clientele can use our app easily.